Jai Swaminarayan. Good morning. I am Ms. Krinal Patel, Assistant Lecturer, Vibrant Nursing College. On behalf of our college, very warmly welcome you all for today's webinar. We are very proud to inform you that this is our third international webinar and we are always supported by our encouraging college management and our respected principal madam who always motivate us to organize such an event to the continue nursing education. Before starting the session, let me give a small introduction of our college. The sole meaning of life is to serve humanity, and this is the vision of our institution. We try to build a future generation of young nurses to serve the human race. Our institution, Vibrant Nursing and Physiotherapy College, laid its foundation on October 2017, which is managed by Sri Swaminarayan Education Trust with the grace of Lord Sri Swaminarayan and backed by strong pioneers Shastri Swami Sri Hari Vallabh Das Ji and the trustee of our college. Every successful institution is run by an effective teamwork and we have an excellent team of teaching and non-teaching staff. The institution strongly believes in encouraging the student in curricular and co-curricular activities. We celebrate important health days by organizing national and international seminars, workshops, study tours, visit at educational place, health camp, awareness program, and organize various competition among the students to educate and increase awareness and try to make education more fun and interesting. Now, I call upon our respected principal, Madam Mrs. Alka Tajne, Principal of Vibrant Nursing College, to unfold the theme of today's webinar and moderate the session. So, over to you.
Good morning to all the speakers,
Good morning.
delegate of various colleges, all the participants, and my dear student. A warm, heartily welcome to our third international webinar. Myself, Mrs. Alka Tajle, a principal of Vibrant Nursing College, welcome you all. Today's webinar theme is Advocacy in Nursing during COVID-19. Advocacy, this is referred a support of particular cause. As a nurse, you advocate for the health, safety, and rights of patient, including the right to privacy. Your special relationship with the patient provide you with knowledge that is specific to your role as a nurse, and as such provide you the opportunity to make a unique contribution to understand a patient point of view. Now, all you know that during this COVID-19 period, we know that there is a shortage of nurses that lead to increase a demand of nursing. And the frontliners are also facing the lots of challenges on day-to-day basis. In teaching aspect, also students are there at home and we are conducting now online lectures. So the aim of this webinar is to take a time and spend intellectual energy to learn all the side of this aspect of advocacy in nursing. Today, we will deal of 4 topics. Our eminent speakers will be dealing with this. Just I'll read the topics. First is scope of practice changes during COVID-19 effect, impact of future care. Second is human rights, a key to COVID-19. Third one is unhealthy work environment and struggle of frontliners. And fourth one is updating COVID-19 learning in nursing education system. Now, I call upon eminent and a historic personality in nursing, that is the Swaresh Khanna ma'am. Welcome you, ma'am. Ma'am is completed a GNM in New Delhi and BBBSc nursing in PGI MRI Chandigarh and MAd and PhD. She is a freelance curriculum consultant and actively involved in community services by lecturing for a senior citizen club. A citizen of India, Canada, and USA, and had her professional beside as well as classroom experience in the CMC Ludhiana. Also, Toronto and in many states of USA, where each state required different licenses with the different set of requirements. Also taught for a Kaplan preparatory courses for a RN license in a law. She has presented paper internationally and presented webinar paper on midwifery practice in rural India and COVID-19 and social media and communication technology. New friends in healthcare and the nursing research. Now, I call upon she's published a book titled Historical Perspective and Nursing Leaders Residing in India and Abroad from 1947 to 2006, and now third edition of the book in a progress. She's ex-president of TNAI, overseas branch of USA, Canada. Now she's a founder of CNRS. Welcome you, ma'am. Please. Over to you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Alka ji. Greetings and blessings from New York to each one of you. Thank you, Alka ji, for the grateful invite to me. And I'm honored to be presenting on behalf of Vibrant Nursing College. As she has mentioned, my topic is scope of nursing. I will give you where we are now and what we are practicing, and then where we want to go in the future, considering COVID-19 pandemic. As you all know, the definition of scope of nursing describes the services that a qualified health professional is deemed competent to perform, is permitted to undertake in keeping with the terms of their professional license. American Nurses Association has explained that. And we usually follow WHO, ICN, and American Nurses, the combination of it. I will come to INC also. Then it reflects all of the roles and activities undertaken by registered nurses to address the full range of human experiences to health and illness. This includes health promotion, health protection, health maintenance, health restoration, rehabilitation, and palliative treatment, or we call it hospice also. The 6 C's are very important: care, compassion, courage, communication, commitment, and competence. Competence should be the first. If we do not have any skills, we cannot give our best to care for the patients, are the central plank of nursing practice. According to ICN, it was same type of definition, that a nurse is prepared and authorized to engage in the general scope of nursing practiced, including the promotion of health, prevention of illness, and care of physically ill, mentally ill, disabled, and dying people. Advocacy, promotion of safe environment, research, participation in shaping health systems management, and education are also key nursing roles. Now, since COVID-19 pandemic, the scope of nurse practitioner to meet the increased need for care has recently expanded. A recent systematic review found that nurse practitioners are more cost-effective in regards to lab testing, diagnostic exams, and overall patient visit expenditures when compared to their physician colleagues. Now let us look at what other developed countries and developing countries have been suggesting and demanding from the expanded roles of nursing profession. Institute of Medicine, IOM, now called National Academy of Medicine, laid down these 3 future goals and scope of nursing profession. And again, we follow similar kind of things, and I will compare with our own Indian nursing council's scope, and what they are doing will be very enlightening. 1, practice to the full extent of their education and training, achieve higher education and training through improved education system that promotes seamless academic progression. And the third is be full partners with physicians and other health professionals in redesigning healthcare in the United States. This committee recognized that nurses are essential to the provision of patient-centered quality care, and yet the role in their healthcare system is too often relegated to second tier. It means the physicians, and then we are still subservient. The scope of future nursing should galvanize and consider nursing community as policymakers and advocates to change the system for better coordinated care. Keeping time in mind, I'm not going through those models, but if you look at the model, it says from bedside to the boardroom. And still in developed country like states, they have only 0.8 their representation of the executive committee, but 5.1 of the physicians on those committees and on those boards. So it is still a long way to go. Since COVID-19 pandemic occurred, the healthcare workers, particularly nurses, are in demand now than ever before. Navigating the science of disease and publications approach to stopping the spread, flattening the curve, and ultimately finding a cure to daunting enough, but having limited nurses and other healthcare providers to deal with the crisis is an unexpected barrier to the care and treatment of diagnosed with COVID-19 pandemic. The crisis have forced the US government to give executive orders to the Health and Human Services, the authority to rewrite regulatory law and streamline traditional bureaucratic systems. It is considered like a war. These citing powers are usually reserved during war through the National Emergencies Act. The present administration used the coronavirus aid, relief of economic security, and to change the scope of practice for nurses during pandemic. In response to the Centers for Medicare, which is a Medicare department for taking care of the older people, and medical services updated its requirements for the national emergency by releasing its COVID-19 emergency declaration blanket. The effects and impact on scope of nursing is obvious. From these changes to have unified standards of care during COVID-19 pandemic. We are having bits and pieces from here and there, but now they're saying wish is like a kutum, and we have become very short distant people and relating to each other, communicating with each other with their travelings and all. So we should have some kind of universal standards. One is change in the mode of communication from INC through our email regulations. The Indian Nursing Council has guidelines on academics and examinations during pandemic and lockdown. So these are the things they are considering. They are not in application yet. Then PhD research topics presentation for 15th batch. Now, what is happening is we had been doing old type of traditional researches. Now they want us through WHO also suggestion of the list of research topics. I will give you example. They want us to do 10, 15 researches on air travel, on the air platforms, on the communication, on standing in line, on securities. And so they are focusing on the bathrooms of those aeroplanes and how we are sitting, the seating arrangement. All they want nurses and health workers to do research presentations on those topics. Suspension of visiting hours is in effect, everybody knows. Effect on PhD program also, they have started accepting applications for part-time candidates. So these are all the changes they are trying to implement. Then inclusion of multiple webinars on the procedures of COVID-19 patient care. And I had a long list, you can also Google it, it's all over in that internet, but you have to just see to get the flavor of it, what kind of focusing topics are there now, such as management of COVID-19 patients, management of nursing care of COVID patients on ventilators, providing family planning and other reproductive health services during COVID-19 outbreak, mental health considerations for patients, families, and nurses. Very, very important. This part is the most important at this time for our frontline warriors, because they are going through stress of not meeting with their children, with their spouses, with their parents, and not going home, staying there with the horrible, I should say, unfortunately, food, what I'm hearing, and PPE and the equipment and tools are not appropriate. and the space are not there for them to go and sleep. They're sleeping in the corridors on those stretchers. Now, Advisory on Human Resources Management of COVID-19 here has also given some kind of similar kind of suggestions. National Guidelines of Infection Prevention and Control in Healthcare Facilities. Learning resources packages for ANMs. Do you know something? ANM's duration of training was 2 years, and I'm hearing they're going to cut short to 1.5 years. And you will be surprised if you say in the near future, maybe for 1 year. And they are taking all non-science students for nursing. Coronavirus disease outbreak roles, responsibilities of nurses and other healthcare workers, including key considerations for occupational safety and health interim guidance for 2021. Health facility preparedness and nurses' role change, surveillance activities at grassroots level, very, very important. We are not paying attention to the grassroots people working in the hospitals. Supervisory management of containment operations at grassroots level. What is happening in rural areas? Very, very horrible conditions. Nature is also not helping us, not favoring us, and there are typhoons and hurricanes. Then lack of those lab tests, collections and dissemination of data, risk communication, double door entry with changing room for isolation ward, which was never heard, that there should be double door and isolation ward should have a separate unit where nurses and health workers can change. That changing room has to be there, and the placing wastage bins and bags in designated places. These are very small but very significant points from prevention point of view. If there is negative pressure for patients requiring aerosol procedures, if there is AC in that room, making sure 12 air changes and filtering of exhaust air is going on, making access through designated lift or guard stairs. I will talk about requirement changes in these 4 existing professional areas, giving example of the New York State. Here we have only 4: RN, registered nurse; CNS, clinical nurse specialist; LPN, licensed practical nurse; and NP, nurse practitioner. In contrast with, in India, there are Anganwadis, there are traditional birth attendants, there are multi-purpose workers, and there is ASHA. So you are very familiar with those. And they have all certificates, but doing the same kind of deliveries in the houses, in the homes. For each type of license here, nurses registration has made it mandatory requirements to have special training. So this is the change coming in, that they will not be given any license to work in the hospitals or in the clinics or in the community at large unless they go through that special course or special training before they are given the RN, CNS, LPN, NP licenses. In contrast to pattern, which I have already mentioned to you, as a matter of fact, the government is requiring to prepare multi-purpose workers who will be doing all injections, vaccinations, childcare, home deliveries in the rural areas. And I don't know where we stand from the legal point of view. Where is the umbrella? If everything is going well, nobody will point out. If anything goes wrong, make sure somebody stands for you. And I am sure physicians are not going to stand for you. Public is not going to stand for you. You have seen already the examples, how they have killed the doctors, how they're beating nurses. According to Sarah Jividan's published article, there are 7 ways in future nursing practice after COVID-19. That is, 1, students' concern in finding job in the future. Already they are stressed out. If COVID-19 goes on and we are not prepared, we are not given the courses in these specialty areas where we are going to find our job. Nurses getting away from bedside nursing. That was a little funny, but true, because nurses are not lazy people, but when they saw the robot working in other countries and taking everything, and they are sitting in the station, wherever the nurses station is, and monitoring it, maybe quite possible that you will see it comes in fashion, nursing getting away from bedside and doing those things away from the bed. Then more into telehealth, inspired to move into specialty role. This is one positive thing I thought was very good. Some of the nurses were only in the clinics, in the OPDs. Now I'm hearing they're all being assigned and they are going in rotation to work in those special units where the COVID patients are admitted. So they are also inspired to go up the career ladder and do the specialty roles within the hospital. Also, they found very positive one that more resilient nurses are more resilient, but it doesn't mean that they should be abusing nurses. Then nurses finally getting accredited for more widely, and WHO has already written a big article on it that Indian nurses are the ones, especially in south part of India, they found out that they had been totally dedicated and compassionate. Whatever you say, all the virtues were there to help the COVID patient. More awareness regarding lack of nurses safety. And I think Dr. Rane will be also talking, and she's taking very good leadership role at the national level to bring to the attention to the politicians also that nurses have to be safe. If you want them to help COVID patients or any other in the hospital, they have to be taken care of. Then Arvind Subramaniam, who was ex-chief advisor of Indian Prime Minister, talked about international, their state and their various health, those internal, we are having those migrations. These are not the migrations from the other countries, but they are the internal migrations, and they are having various health problems. They are having road accidents, they are having infections, they are dying due to hunger, and we have seen that millions of them, they just came on the road, and you have read on in the news also. And it reflects that it has a significant impact on the nursing and scope of nursing. Then Ravi Verma from International Center for Research on Women talked about female children. Now, many children he has interviewed, and they have shared with him that they were in the school, they were looking forward to be graduating and going to the other class, but now it is not happening, and they are forced to be bread earning and breadwinning those people, and they have started working on the construction sites. And this is a little bit dangerous. It was already dangerous, but it is very dangerous from mental health point of view when they have their growth and development area all stuck in this crisis. More expanded role of nurse practitioner will require nursing education to prepare nurse practitioner in many specialty areas in addition to only emergency nurse practitioner. You are aware of it that INC has got approved of a proposal from the government that they can start emergency nurse practitioner course for 2 years. And I also heard from Dr. Sukhpal from Chandigarh that they have oncology also for 2 years. But this is all overfelt need for the nurse practitioner that they should be prepared for the future nursing in different specialty areas also. Then Maureen White said, pandemic will change the healthcare industry forever, and we must be there for nurses for their tranquility and wellness opportunities. Representation on government policy making committees to remove gender discrimination in nursing practice. This is, I know, Dr. Rane's pet peeve and very close to her heart that gender discrimination should be not there. I know it was started with the female profession, but we have come a long way, and I think those male nurses stand and should stand equal right to get jobs. In conclusion, scope of practice changes during COVID-19 has affected the nursing practices at present and is going to have significant effect and impact on our competencies and delivery of nursing care to our patients. Where nurses will be getting more independent role and medicine prescription responsibility, there will be an emerging need for the nurses from legal point of view. They have to be well secured under some umbrella to be taken care of if some mishap arises. There will be practice insurance demand. Like we nurses here have to be insured by our private insurance companies. You will be surprised, even students have to have their private insurance before they go and work in the hospitals for clinical practice. And like physicians, which is extra burden on the provider. Also, the impact will be on the healthcare delivery system as overall changes. I have taken only 5 very important, significant references because there are like hundreds and hundreds of them. Do look for American Nursing Association Neuroscience, the scope and standards of practice. They have talked about this scope of nursing. ANCC, which is American Nursing Credential Center, Continuing Professional Development, which is published by Springer Publishing Company. Then INCS 2020 to establish uniform standards of training for nurses, midwives, and health visitors, IndianNursingCouncil.org. NYSD.gov of the New York State Office of the Professions, licensure requirements of RN, CNS, NP, LPN. I think you should get familiar with those people who are trying to come here on HB visa, PR visa, whatever permanent residence visa, that they have changed all these requirements in addition to NCLEX and IELTS. Then WHO 2019 Nurses in India Caring for, I wanted to leave on a positive note that WHO has published this, that patients are having this contribution for the nurses, and it is a very impressive recovery rate, WHO INT, from the Indian nurses. If there is time, I would like to come to the first 2 diagrams with your permission. This is the future of nursing here in United States. I want to give you an example, but I almost all covered the points for you. That nurse of the future nursing should be from the art and science equipped with competencies. The nursing knowledge, which says CAS. CAS means knowledge, attitudes, skills. One is evidence-based. We are talking about evidence in India. Patient-centered care, we are talking about that too. Then we have professionalism. Of course, the best professional nurses are from India, and I get a lot of kudos and accolades for my Indian nurses whenever I go with my students in the hospitals or anywhere, that Indian nurses are the best equipped with the clinical skills and competencies. Then leadership, systems-based practice, then informatics and technology. This has come a little earlier than in our India, but now India is catching up with all these webinars and other Zooms and other technology stuff. Communications, and then is the teamwork, all for one and one for all. This is collaborative effort. We cannot work in isolation. We are interdependent professions. Then safety, where we talked about patient safety, we talked about family safety, we talk about nurses safety. Quality improvement, quality assurance is coming in vogue. And then we talked about evidence. There is another, okay, I will just stop it here for questions and answers.
Now, I call upon our second speaker, Ms. Lara Jesani ma'am. Madam is independent litigator with primary practice based out of Bombay High Court and National Green Tribunal. Madam holds her master degree in political science with specialization in Indian politics and master in law with specialization in criminal law. Then Madam take up cases on a human rights violation, particularly constitutional, environmental, developmental and anti-corruption matters, death penalty, criminal cases in defense of a human rights. Madam is the ad hoc committee member of Maharashtra Unit of People Union for Civil Liberties and also working committee member of People Commission on Shrinking Democratic Spaces and a part of Human Rights Defenders Alert.
I was asked to speak a little on, the rights of nurses and also the human rights, bring a human rights perspective to the entire COVID-19 situation, how it has impacted the healthcare workers as well as, and in specific, the, nursing sector. And I first want to, take this opportunity to thank the entire nursing community that is here in attendance and all others, in the front line who have been, braving the entire COVID-19 pandemic. I don't think, it would have been possible to keep the death rate of, of the COVID-19 COVID-19 low. The way it is in India, considering the number of cases, we are third highest in the world. Had it not been for the fantastic, nursing sector that was already in place and the nursing community that has worked so hard, I'm very happy to be here on a platform, invited by a nursing university. And I must, first and foremost, even before I start, caveat that I'm not a health expert. I'm a lawyer, and I'm here to talk more about the constitutional and human rights perspective and try and understand how rights have been affected in the COVID time. But please feel free to correct me where I'm wrong, especially on the medical aspects, because most of the, most of the things that we know of is from what we are getting to hear, and a lot of different kinds of accounts that we are getting to hear in the news today. I will be talking more about the rights perspective, and I'll just want to start with a little brief on, and we all know this, we were hit with the COVID-19 pandemic in January 2020, and on the same day, 30th January, when the first case was reported, the WHO declared that there was a global that there was a global public health emergency, which is of international concern. Now, what would have been expected was at that time for the entire international community to take cognizance of this and try and strengthen their public healthcare system, as well as ensure that doctors and nurses are prepared to deal with the workload that is going to come out of dealing with such a huge pandemic. But what eventually happened is that we saw that it was not until late in March that we recognized that there was an emergency of such a huge scale, which obviously put a lot of load on the healthcare workers. On March 11th is when WHO declared COVID-19 to be a pandemic, and it is only on March 24th that India imposed a national lockdown. In Maharashtra, we had a partial lockdown from 16th of March. Now, the reason I'm contextualizing this is also to understand how we as a country are reacting to critical disaster situations. Right when the pandemic was announced, the two very important acts were invoked. One is the Epidemic Diseases Act, and the second is the Disaster Management Act. Now, both of these acts, obviously, the fact that they are imposed, and they have a lot of provisions, for penal provisions for not following those acts or following the law. And in spite of, acknowledging the fact that there was an emergency of that scale, invoking these two acts, India was not prepared. The healthcare sector was not prepared. It was not bolstered. We know what the GDP of India is towards healthcare. Now it's further reduced to 0.8, which is unbelievable. I mean, there are countries which don't show the same economic growth as us, who have a better GDP in healthcare. So it's a very neglected sector in any case, and that has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 crisis. So first and foremost, what I would like to say is how we have dealt with the pandemic itself has put us in this position. And second, the crisis was already there. It just got worse because of COVID, and it has just come out more because of COVID. Now, in today's date, we've had over 60,000 deaths. and over 30 lakh cases. In May, a nurse got infected in Delhi in a private hospital because she was made to use used PPE, right? 2,000 doctors, as per a report by News 18, doctors, nurses, and health workers were infected in Delhi. This was a report in June. We don't even know the actual numbers today. And in April and May alone, 300 nurses from various hospitals in Mumbai tested COVID-19 positive. The numbers are so much higher. At least for the doctors, we know how many have been infected. But for the nurses, there is not even an understanding of what the exact numbers are, because they are completely pushed down in the entire system. And the voices of nurses have been stifled far more. So we don't even know. They're not even tested. They're not even allowed to go for quarantine leave. So in a situation like this, how would we know how the, how nurses who are in the front line are affected? Now, there has been heavy workload due to, poor nursing, hiring in the nursing sector from before. This was already a problem in the nursing sector. The nurse-patient ratio in India is 1:4. And what is it recommended by 1:20? And what is it recommended by WHO? 1:4. So we are far, far behind anyway. There have been low wages all throughout the nursing sector. Today, they are saying that there is a wage correction taking place. We don't know how true it is. I think that when the workload increased and, there was a huge shortage of nurses, the private hospitals as well as the municipal hospitals in Thana and Navi Mumbai started hiring nurses and offering better rates. But we don't know. We don't know if it's actually leading to a wage correction. But there should be a wage correction. Because if you see, so many of the Western countries during the pandemic, offered to increase wages of doctors and nurses. In India, we've seen a complete opposite, where salaries of doctors were not paid for 3 months, so 300 doctors in Delhi went on strike. So this is the kind of situation that is happening. On 1st of September, if I'm not mistaken, and Dr. Swati Rane and others will definitely, be able to provide more information. But Maharashtra's Nurses Association, as well as the United Association, are staging a silent protest by, putting a black ribbon, if I'm not mistaken, considering the kind of, occupational health hazards that they are facing. There have been lack of growth opportunities, something that the first speaker adequately spoke about. I must say, most of the issues that I'm going to talk about have already been raised in the first session. And I think that's going to be the case with all of the speakers, because that overview was fantastic. It covered many of the issues that are also relevant over here. But I want to talk about some other aspects also. The kind of abuse that has been going on in the nursing sector, and that is very, underspoken. We do not talk about the gender discrimination, the abuse, the sexual abuse, as well as the physical abuse, as well as, the mental abuse, the kind of trauma that is faced by, not the nurses not having a say, being controlled both by the management as well as running on the diktat of the physicians or the doctors. So this kind of a situation. Then, of course, there has always been the issue of unsafe working conditions. Nurses have been lowest in the priority as far as providing safety is concerned. Now, this obviously has gotten worsened by COVID-19. What have we seen? Like I already spoke of, there has been non-payment of salaries, lack of protective gear, unsafe working environment. In fact, in the first very month, when as soon as the national lockdown was announced on the 24th of March 2020, and we had already started relief work, a couple of us, on the 18th of March 2020, after the partial lockdown in Maharashtra was announced, because many of us work in bastis, and we started getting calls from bastis, that there is a problem. We don't have food, we don't have healthcare access, and all of that. So we went out on the streets and we started, delivering food and trying to help in some way or the other. And some of the urgent calls that we started getting were from hospitals, from the nursing community, from residents in KEM hospital, saying that they do not have PPE kits. Something as basic as PPE kits took so long to be provided. And even then, they were not provided in sufficient quantity, because of which they had to reuse the PPE kits, because of which they did not have enough gloves. They did not have, enough of, the ambulance workers did not have face shields. So we were going from place to place, even those who were doing diagnostic techniques, like, one rupee clinic and several other, diagnostic laboratories who were sending out health workers in order to take samples, did not have adequate, protective gear. And some of the major calls that we got and that we were fulfilling at that time was to provide this protective gear. Another thing that has happened is, of course, the stigmatization and ostracization. We have seen that with nurses from the Northeast. We have seen that with, the nurses in Delhi who were thrown out of their rental premises. They were evicted because they were on COVID-19 duty. Instead, so you have on the one hand, a huge thali banging taking place, and, army flying, special, flights in honor of, honor of healthcare workers. And then on the other hand, you have this kind of stigmatization or ostracization, where communities that you are working for, people that you are working for itself, they stigmatize you because you are doing duty for COVID care. Assaults by family members of patients, of course, that has happened across the line, whether it is doctors as well as nurses. This is also because of the fact that the healthcare, healthcare sector was not equipped to deal with this crisis. So many feel that there is a neglect. Many feel that, they're not getting an admission. So what happens? Who is in front of them? It is the doctors, nurses. It is the, frontline workers who are in front of them, ambulance drivers, and other kind of help. And they are the ones who face the attack. Insurance monies were announced to 50 lakh by the government for kin of nurses who, who, however, have not still been provided, who died in line of duty, but have still not been provided. Working overtime due to shortage and heavy caseload, insufficient quarantine period. That has been one of the biggest challenges for the nursing sector. 3 days they have to report back to duty. I think that's one of the reasons also that, the silent protest is taking place on 1st of September. Lack of COVID-19 specific training, because in order to deal with a pandemic like this, the doctors and nurses have to be equipped with the kind of specific training or specific, learnings that they need in order to deal with this, whether it is for infection control, containment, whether for their own safety. And that specific training is lacking. Reprisals. So all those who complained, a doctor who complained that PPE kit was not being provided by the hospital, had a case filed against him. Another doctor was fired for putting up a social media post. Application of ESMA. What is ESMA? Essential Services Maintenance Act. Now, as per this, no health workers can go on strike. They cannot protest. They cannot come up with any kind of, why? Because of ESMA. And on what basis? That no, because it is an essential service. Hence all their rights are suspended. That cannot be the case. And that is totally against what our constitution provides. So what was required was that the voices be heard. What are the complaints? What are the issues? Now let's try to solve these issues. But instead, if you punish, how will these issues get solved, right? Now, this is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 25 provides for the right to health, food, clothing, and housing. There are many other rights in this. The right of equality, right? No one can be discriminated. Nurses cannot be discriminated within their profession, nor can patients be discriminated. They all need the right to health, right? Then right to live in freedom and safety. So to live in safety is a universal right, understood as a basic human right. And all of these and many of these reflect into our constitutional rights. So in some way or the other, as workers, as human beings, and as people working on the front line, all nurses have these rights. These are the basic and fundamental rights that are understood internationally. It also includes the right to gather peacefully. Our constitution also ensures rights. Now, what are these rights? These are fundamental rights. No matter what law comes in, no matter what be the situation, even in a situation of emergency, our fundamental rights remain intact. Article 21, which is the right to life and liberty, it includes the right to health. It includes the right to privacy. It includes the right of a patient to be informed. Article 15, it includes the right to be protected from discrimination. And so every patient has a right to health care. Every nurse has the same equal rights as a worker. Article 19(1)(g), which is right to freedom of work, it includes the right to Article 21, which means when you have the right of freedom to work, your right to life must be safeguarded. Now, I'm sure all of y'all are familiar with this as nurses, so I'm going to very quickly go through this. I don't know how much time I have. I do have some time, right? Yeah. So the rights of nurses under the ICN, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but just to understand, nurses have their right to work as nurses. They have a right to practice in an environment that allows them to act in accordance with professional standards. Now, if the environment, the working environment only does not give you either protective gear, either give you the facilities, the training, how will you work in accordance with professional standards? So they have a right to demand that environment. That is extremely important. Nurses have a right to work in an environment which supports and facilitates their practice. So we all have code of ethics. The Nursing Council is there in India. You all have your code of ethics. How will you all be able to work as per your code of ethics if this is not provided to you? They have a right to openly advocate without fear of reprisal. So you must be able to do advocacy. And this entire session is on nursing advocacy. And you must be able to do this advocacy without fear that you will be attacked, that you will be targeted, that you will be criminalized, or that there will be any kind of punishment that will be given to you. Many nurses who have demanded salaries in the past, who have demanded hikes in the past, okay, face transfers or are fired, especially in the private sector where, the nurses are hired on contractual basis. The work atmosphere is so insecure. There is so much of job insecurity that it's not possible. They have a right to compensation. And this is extremely important because in the Indian context, we have seen denial of wages to nurses, and there has been no solution to this. What is the solution in a situation of a pandemic when the wages should have been doubled in order to take care of the caseload, in order to take care of the amount of risk that the nurses have had to face? We have seen that even the demand that their wages should come to them gets muzzled. And why is this happening, and why are we allowing it to happen? Why are we not including the society in this? When we demand wages, so society should say that I want my nurse to get wages so that I can be taken care of adequately. Nurses have the right to, a safety, a safe working environment. They have a right to negotiate the terms of their employment, which means that they should be able to protest, they should be able to strike. Of course, that we are not saying that we want the entire healthcare industry to stop working and not deal with this pandemic. But at the same time, if the healthcare industry is not strengthened, if they are not provided all that they need to combat a pandemic, then how are they going to do it? So both the things have to go simultaneously. They should be able to negotiate their working conditions. The worse the emergency, the more the need to negotiate the working conditions. And so today, when we look at COVID, what is it? It is an opportunity because it has actually brought out the crisis in the industry today. So it is an opportunity to change things. And that is going to come only when everybody gets together, understands their rights, and does advocacy. Nurses have the right not to be abused. And this is a very important thing. Any kind of abuse, it should not, one, be tolerated. And second, there should be penal measures. One very important point that the first speaker also made it that there is an inadequacy of a legal framework to protect nurses. As nurses get more and more responsibility, the need for a legal framework is becoming more and more urgent. We need to be able to protect nurses legally. What is there to protect nurses legally today? So there is a requirement for us to have conversations with the legislators, with the political decision makers, to decide, to talk to them that there is a need to protect nurses. There is a need to have law so that, or have guidelines so that they are safe in their working environment, and so that their rights as workers, as medical workers, as healthcare workers are protected, and that they do not suffer abuse, discrimination, or anything that hampers their work. Nurses have the right not to be exploited. They have a right to have a safe working environment, even in an emergency. They have the right to refuse, say that you are not providing me safety, so I am not going to work. And there are two reasons why. It's not a selfish thing and it is not a selfless thing. One reason is to protect themselves, their family, society. But second reason is also because they know that they might contribute to the spread of infection if they go back in an unsafe working environment. They could be carriers. They could be asymptomatic. So there is a necessity, and the nurses have a right to refuse. No, it is not safe for me. I will not do it. You put the safety measures in place, then I will do it. I just want to end here because I know I have very little time. I was told 10 minutes, but I am happy to take any questions that come. I was hoping that we can have more discussions instead of me just presenting and going. But once again, thank you, all of you. And I'm very honored to be here. Thank you.
Now we will call upon our third speaker, Dr. Swati Rane ma'am. Swati Rane ma'am is the Vice President of Clinical Nursing Research Society. She is a PhD scholar in a School of Health System Studies. Madam has done her master in hospital administration from Leelabai Thakursi College of Nursing, SNDT University. Among her various roles, actually ma'am have so many roles and she have done so many activities. Among that, I have taken some activities. Madam is an influencer speaker and a counselor, and teaching at a TISS for a master in hospital administration students. Madam has also digitalized and processed a restructuring of a small 20-bed maternal and child specialty hospital in Mumbai. Some of the achievement of Madam is planned super specialty department like linear accelerator, bone marrow transplant units, Oka, Mulund and Bangalore hospital. She's managed to bring technology for easy operation like pneumatic tube after visiting various hospitals in Germany, in Wokat, Mumbai Central and Kolkata hospital. She has been a speaker in a various national and international level. Madam has also published several articles on nursing practice, work environment in a public health hospital, and essential criteria for a safe and quality care.
My topic is unhealthy nursing work environment and frontliners struggle. Basically, the history of nursing we all know, like nursing was always treated as a subservient job. Okay, and I was very upset during my PhD when I was reading nursing, okay, about the history of nursing, and I realized that this part of the position of subservient was given to us by a lady called Isabel Hampton Robb. Okay, she was the early leader in the development of American nursing education, and she encouraged the obedience or subservient, being quiet, not raising voice. Okay, so you always see the nurses are very quiet people, obedient people. Okay, and this was something which current generation will not like, okay, to be. And I am so happy of the current generation because you are ready to voice out, and because of you the change in nursing has begun. But it was not the reality earlier by Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale was a very vocal person. She was a very she had so much of knowledge, not only about the disease conditions of the nursing care, but also of hospital planning. Being a hospital planner, during my PhD, I understood that she has planned maximum of the European hospitals, okay, and also the American hospitals. So she was not only a nurse, but she was a very good researcher. She was a very good hospital planner. She was a very good advocate for nurses and the patients. At the same time, she was very politically well connected, and she knew how to bring policy level changes. So that was Florence Nightingale. So she definitely wouldn't have agreed, okay, obedience part. Okay, she would have agreed obedience part to follow the doctor's medical orders. But nursing care, taking care of the nurses, she would have said that you should have your own autonomous decision, your own independent practice. Okay, so this is I'm definitely not approving to Isabel Hampton Robb of being obedient. And I don't say that you should not be obedient students. Please, you should be obedient students, because of teachers, you will grow in your life. And today I am there, whatever I'm there today, it is only because of my teachers. And my 99% of my credit goes to my teachers. So wherever you go, always remember that they will be very strict, they will be very strong, but the purpose is only to make you aware that you are dealing with life. A small mistake can, harm the patient. So this is one thing what I would like to give to the new generation. So my PhD topic itself was influence of physical work environment on the nurses' practice and the outcomes. I did this study in public health hospitals in Maharashtra. And there is a story behind it also, which I will tell you. So what was the conclusion of the study? We all know that the nursing work environment, even before COVID, was not very encouraging. It is not a new thing, okay? Nor the physical infrastructure or nor the practice was very encouraging. For physical infrastructure, I would say, if you go to any municipal hospital or government hospital, the change rooms of nurses are so unkept or not kept well. Okay, they don't have proper drinking water facilities or proper sitting arrangements. Okay, this is if a nurse is not comfortable. Okay, how can she give care to the patient? That comes the first thing. About the practice, definitely there are so many issues in practice which I will take care of in the next slides. Commitment level. I was so shocked when I saw that my results showed that the nurses were really not committed to work, because definitely who will like to work in a situation where they themselves are not comfortable? They come on duty and every day they have to fight with the patient and the patient's relatives, especially in the government hospitals, because they don't have either linen, they don't have patient clothes. So they have to do all the work which they are not supposed to do. Okay. If they are doing all the work which they are not supposed to do, like administrative work, managing the hospital, taking care of the wards, when will they give patient care? And then very highlight, every doctor or every administrator will tell that our nurses are not able to give the patient care. From where will she give the patient care? Because from the time she has entered the hospital, entered the ward, she is trying to collect things and give to the patient. Most of the patient will have problems because they don't understand either the language, or she has to manage the ambulance, or she has to manage so many things which she is not even aware of. Okay. Second thing, now they have started taking money in the hospital for X-ray. So she has to manage that also. So she's doing all the administrative work. Then there are around 30 to 40 books she has to maintain. There is no digitalization in the government hospitals. Okay. She is maintaining the same old records which were done 70 years back. She is doing the same work, same information she is giving again and again in various books. Night duty, different book. Morning duty, different book. Evening duty, different book. But she is giving the same data. Okay. So all these things are similar. But it is not similar in all different states. In the states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala, things are much better. But in the states like Gujarat or Maharashtra, the things are not so much better. So all these things also depend upon the political will. Okay, whether they really want to invest in nursing. So these were the findings which I came to know during my study. And the most important thing was there was no nursing leadership. As you all know, the councils are not there, they're abolished. Okay, so the nursing leadership itself is not there. So the profession which is not having a leadership, a strong leadership, cannot grow. Okay, so the recommendations from our side was that you have to have the nurses at the policy levels, the nurses at the administrative levels, the nurses at the bureaucratic levels. So nurses should be at all the decision-making positions. Nursing work environment has to be healthy if you want to keep the nurse and the patients healthy. Accountability and responsibility of the patient care should be in the appraisal of the nurse. And the nurse should demand for a good work environment. Autonomy and empowerment should be given to the nurses at all the levels. And she should be there from the bedside to boardrooms. And now I will add to the parliament also after COVID. Because all the decisions are taken by the bureaucrats All the decisions are taken in the parliament. And where is the nurse? We have only one nurse advisor. For whole of India, we have only one nurse advisor. And she is not having any nurses under her. She's having 2 clerks under her. So how she can manage more than 25 lakh of nurses in India? So this is the insights which I got from my study. And from there, I took a U-turn from my hospital administration back to nursing. So what type of criteria you should have in a healthy work environment? So there are 2 models. One is the magnet model and one is the practice nurse environment scale, practice environment scale for nursing work index, which I used for my study. So in this, let us see, there are main points is that the leadership should be transformational. Okay, there should be structural empowerment and exemplary professional practice should be there. New knowledge and innovation and improvement should be seen, and there should be an empirical outcome. So if these things are there, then the model is called as magnet model. And most of the nurses, most of the hospitals, which are magnet hospitals, they don't have any they have the highest retention rate. The nurses don't leave the hospitals because they are being taken care very well. Okay. At the same time, if you see the practice environment scale, it emphasizes that nurse participation in the hospital affairs should be there. Nursing foundation for quality care, there should be activities of training for nurses, capacity building for nurses. Nurse managers should be able with good leadership styles and support nurses. It should not be that they are supporting the management and not the nurses. Okay. Staff and resource adequacy should be there. They should get proper staffing, as Lara definitely said, the ratios should be properly maintained, and the resources, whatever are needed. For example, there is no ward clerk post in the government hospitals. Okay, so all the administrative work is done by the nurse. So all the resource management is done by the nurse. If there is no finance, she has to go from one ward to other ward to third ward, and she may have to go even to the purchase department. So if she is going to do all these things, when is she going to give patient care? And these are all exhausting. And nursing job is not so easy, period. It was not easy 100 years back, and it is not easy now also. In fact, it has increased now. Okay. The relationship with the physician and the nurse should be very, very good. Only then, if there is a collaborative approach, only then she can give the best care. So if these things are not there, then you're really working in an unhealthy work environment. Please check these things when you work in your work environment. Am I getting all these things? If not, start working for it. Okay. So as I told you, nursing was never a simple job. It was highly complex job. Okay, including the other factors, the external factors, like it is not acceptable in the society as a great profession. Okay, there is definitely gender discrimination, which Lara definitely said, and we are always seeing that. And in COVID, it has boomed up like anything. Education and regulatory disarrays, there we don't have any regulatory measures for nurses. Okay. All these things have created a complicated backdrop for nurses. Okay. And in this, giving care is definitely difficult. How a person who is himself or herself in a complex position can take care of a person. Okay. And modern nursing is even more complex because of more and more machineries. Okay. High-tech hospitals. Okay. And it is ever changing and it is multi-focused. Okay. Today the nurses should know digital activities. The nurses should know the computers. The nurses should know even the artificial intelligence. They should know the simulations. So it is multi-focused. Okay. And nurses' work is very critical thinking. She has to take a decision there itself where she is standing. She cannot say, "Main baad mein aati." No, she cannot do that. Okay. So since the times of Florence Nightingale, however, the goal of nursing remained unchanged, namely to provide safe and caring environment that promotes patient health and well-being. So what are the benefits of having a magnet hospital, or you can say what are the benefits of having a good healthy work environment? Why am I harping so much? Why did I even think of doing my PhD on work environment? Because without a healthy work environment, we cannot give patient care. If you cannot give patient care, definitely a mortality rate is going to high. It is going to increase. You look at the mortality rate of Mumbai. It is so much high than the normal mortality rate. Why? They have jumbo facilities. They have so many beds increased, but there is the ratio of the staff and the patient is less. There is no care given. There are no doctors. There are no ward boys or class 4 workers who can help the nurses and the patients. So if there is no care aspect, mortality rate is going to increase. You cannot have machines and infrastructure for giving care. There should be a person, and she should be a nurse who can give care, because she knows how to give care, because she does a 3 years or 4 years complete program where she's trained. It is a highly skilled job. I was very shocked when Mamata Banerjee said that, nurses can be trained within 3 to 4 days. Okay, so that much level of awareness is not there in the political purview or in the bureaucracy. If they don't know what is nursing they think is that a white topi lagaya, white dress dala to nurse ban gaya. No, sorry. We literally, Clinical Nursing Research Society leadership, Madam Uma Handa and our president, Mrs. Shashi Balaji, they were so clear that our Clinical Nursing Research Society should do clinical research, so that we can bring change at the clinical, at the bedside near the patients. And not only that, we also have started creating awareness programs by having a lot of activities to create awareness about the image of nurse. We almost had more than 4 webinars on various sub-themes of image of nurse. We started a sub-theme of visibility, whether the nurse is visible. We also had a webinar where we had how the media is helping the nurses, or how the nurses are using the media to voice out. We also had a beautiful webinar where the image of male nurse are increasing. Okay, they are more now, but we don't know. Nobody knows that male nurses are there. And if the findings were that when a male nurse goes to give care to the patient, they think either he's a ward boy or he's a doctor. But they don't know that there is something called as male nurse. So identity crisis is there so much about nursing. People don't know what are nurses. Even our doctors are not aware what is a nurse, what education she gets. So there is complete, a delusion is there about nursing. Everybody thinks nursing as per their experiences. So having these magnet hospitals will definitely keep your nursing retentions high. The burnout will be less. There will be a decrease in the vacancy rate, and the nurses will be a satisfied professional can give a satisfied care. If a nurse is satisfied, the patient will be satisfied. Today, the patient is not satisfied because the nurse is not satisfied. So clear it is. But our management doesn't see it. Okay. Then comes is that at the patient level, how having these criteria of magnet hospital can help. The most important thing, the patient is happy, the patient is satisfied. Second is there is a decrease in the mortality rate. Third is that the pressure ulcers and the falls are reduced. Medical errors come down. Okay. And patient safety and the quality care is maintained. And we have all, because of so much of commercialization of health, we have forgotten that we are having everything patient-centered, but we have forgotten the patient. We talk big talks about patient-centered care, patient-centered hospital, but the patient is forgotten completely. Okay, and that is what we have to come back to the basis and the basic of care and cure. Cure is important, but care is more important than cure, according to me. What are the challenges? I think Lara has beautifully covered the challenges what the nurses have faced, and I will just go through the points, and I will just share with you how the advocacy work we did in Maharashtra and the other places. So definitely we are having shortage of nurses. Definitely in the beginning, we had shortage of PPE kits. Okay. There were no sanitizers for the nurses. The organizations, the hospitals were giving substandard, and now also they are giving substandard PPE kits. Okay. There are no facilities for these healthcare workers. It was in initial phase when the lockdown started, the government started to have, for the government hospitals, they started bus facilities. But the bus facilities were so overcrowded, the buses were so overcrowded. In fact, I thought, I saw one day I really spoke to one of the person in charge. I said, you will be spreading more of COVID than, you know, minimizing the COVID, because you are, your whole staff, more than 1,000, 2,000 of your staff is daily going from the hospital back home to their community. And the spread is more from the hospital to the community. Then, as usual, quarantine facilities were pathetic. Nurses were crying. In between May and June, the nurses were crying because when they were COVID positive, they were not getting beds in their own hospitals. They were thrown out in some quarantine facilities where the situations were so bad, okay, so bad that they said that we are feeling bad not only for the patient but for us. Okay, at least the patient will get cured and he will go home. But after we getting cured, we have to come back to the hospital. There were no clean facilities, no proper bed facilities. So all these quarantine facilities, what we had, were very, very badly managed. There was no sensitivity towards nursing, nurses, care, medical care. They were not being even allowed to do their COVID tests. So we had to do a lot of advocacy work, and we had to fight with the BMC for allowing COVID tests for the nurses. Okay, and then we had to really revise the ICMR because they had completely goofed up, because ICMR guidelines were changing again and again, and they had goofed up at the BMC level. Okay, and they had revised the things again, and then it was allowed. So during the COVID time, lot of issues have come up because we are not ready. The system is already collapsed. Okay, and COVID has literally crumpled it completely. It is dead. Healthcare infrastructure, healthcare facilities is dead. It is not even in ICU, I can say. Okay. After 6 months, we are not doing anything. Physical exhaustion and mental stress was tremendous in nurses during COVID time. And it still exists because they were not given proper training how to take care of the patients. PPE kits were not being given to them. In fact, our advocacy started with the problems of face masks and PPE kits. The nurses of one of the hospitals they refused to give care to the patients because they said we have only 5 PPE kits and there were 12 nurses, and the administration was asking them to go without the PPE kits. Okay, but the nurses were so subservient. They for half a day, they didn't go for duties, and then they contacted us. Somehow we gave them some PPE kits, and then literally we had to request them that we have to go to the media now because nobody is helping you. And when we approached media, within one day they got more than 100 PPE kits. Okay, so one thing what we have learned during COVID times that you have to raise your voice against injustice. You have to raise your voice against unhealthy environment. Okay. That is the most important thing. Insurance coverage is still not there to the private nurses. We are still struggling. Okay, still we are fighting. And advocacy work is nothing like, it is going to happen so fast. Because in the task force now also, there is not a single nurse. There is not a single woman in the task force. All are male doctors. There is no division of disciplines also. There are no epidemiologists, there are no social scientists, there are no lawyers, there are no nurses, there are only doctors. And how much will a doctor know about the other things? How much a doctor will know about the community issues? How much the doctor will know about the gender issues? If he is a doctor, it doesn't mean that he has knowledge about everything. And these are the questions we have to teach our students. Nursing curriculum should talk about advocacy. Nursing curriculum should talk about the rights of the nurse. Nursing curriculum should talk about safety. Nursing curriculum should talk about sexual harassments. Nursing curriculum should talk about social challenges which a nurse faces in the initial stages. But it is all hidden. Nobody talks about it. So there is concerns regarding personal safety is there, security is there. There are many nurses who are literally 20, 25 years working, but they are still suffering from the personal security problems. They cannot work alone at night. Okay, but nobody is even talking about it. And I was so much surprised and shocked when one of the matrons of a very big hospital, when I asked her, Madam, what about the safety of the, she's saying, security and safety is not our problem. It is their problem. So if a nursing leader is talking like this, what demand can a frontline nurse expect? What can she ask when the leader doesn't know what about the safety and security? Whose responsibility it is? When the nurse is coming in your hospital, whose responsibility it is? They don't know. They cannot voice out. Because they cannot voice out, the frontliners are completely taken aback. So all these things, there is no counseling. There is no counseling facility. A nurse who is having trauma, she never gets counseling. In fact, she will be scolded if she cries. Okay, so these things in the nursing have to change. Okay, there is a lot of communication gap. Period. Lot of communication gap between the hospital authorities and the nursing leaders. Okay, there is a lot of exhaustion and frustration at the frontline workers, and all these things are not being seen. They are invisible, completely invisible to the eyes of the management, which we as nurses should have to voice it out. Okay, without you voice out, nobody is going to talk for you. Forget about it. Even when a child is hungry, the child cries, only then the mother gives the milk. No, that is the thing what is happening. And involvement of nursing unions. Nursing union is required. All the countries like Canada, America has unions. Why can't nurses have unions in India? Why is it a taboo? So because of all these, the politicians and the administration are having their nice selfish motives. So this is the thing what I had to say about the nursing challenges. Now about the advocacy. Advocacy has different types. Self-advocacy is there, group advocacy is there, peer advocacy, citizen advocacy is there, professional advocacy is there, and non-structured, non-instructed advocacy is there. So all these things we have to train our nurses in the college level. So these are the things which are recent things what are happening in just in 1 month. Still we are struggling. Still the nurses are going on strike. It is almost more than 5 months. Still we are not getting the right PPE kits. We are not getting the right timings to work. We are not getting proper facilities. The nursing work environment is so unhealthy. Okay. And Nightingale has demonstrated that advocacy is what gives power to caring, to the caring nurse. If the caring nurse is not having all these things, she cannot take care of the patient. Use the media. Please go contact. Media is very happy to help you. We at Jan Swasthya Abhiyan and Trained Nursing Association, Seva Shakti, Clinical Nursing Research Society, we all came together and we have written to the IAS officer, the Commissioner of Mumbai, Mr. Iqbal Singh, and also to his previous predecessor who was Mr. Praveen Pardesi. We have written to them, but they have not yet called us. Okay, they acknowledged the letter, but after that what? Nothing. So strike is the only answer to it. The Canadian Federation of Nurse Union, the leader Linda Silas, she is supporting Indian nurses. And what she has written, last week I joined other labor leaders from the healthcare sector in calling for better health and safety precautions for all healthcare workers. Earlier today, I joined Canadian Nurses Association in a joint letter to the Federal Health Minister and Chief Public Health Officer advising them to err on the side of caution and to send immediate funds to the healthcare authorities. Today, urgently address the supply of PPE. So this is the level the nurse unions are working. They are part of the administration. They are part of the government. They are part of the parliament in many other countries. We have to go a long way. We have to create a lot of awareness because we are unheard. Still, we are invisible. We are dismissed in the society. Okay, we are not there in the decision making. You have to use advocacy. There is no choice. You have to meet chief minister, you have to meet home minister, you have to meet prime minister, you have to meet health minister, because they are the ones who will listen to you, nobody else. I was very, very happy to help the student nurses of BMC hospitals when initially, when it started, when COVID just started, they were sending students, okay, to COVID areas without proper PPE kits. They were not standing their stuff. So this is the way the hierarchy works in nursing. The vulnerable is the student, okay? But the students, with the help of other people, they literally came in the media. They took it and they told, and they were in constant touch with all of us, and we were guiding them. And they told us very clearly, madam, if we cannot take care of our health, how can we take care of patients' health? Our teachers are not understanding this matter. And that was a shame. That was really a shame for us. Supreme Courts are having cases after cases. High Courts are having cases after cases, Lara has told us. But there is no implementation happening. Okay, there are so much of funds available, but nobody knows where are they going. These are the people like NDTV and other channels who are ready to take and help nurses to bring out their voices. So we need to speak up. Okay, we have to speak in media. If people may make fool of you, people may say that she's too over smart, she wants to have a publicity. Let them say whatever they want to say. You have to speak for your nurses. If you don't speak, nobody's going to speak for you. And the change is break the silence. Okay, work on gender equality. Do your researches on gender equality. There are old leadership or old nurses who are not willing to give up their seats. Okay, but the young are impatient. They will take it. So it is better that you give to them happily. Give the leadership happily to the young ones. Okay, all these things, conscious, unconscious bias, moral policing, sisterly solidarity, gender audits, range of diversity, these are the topics which now we should start teaching our nurses. Movement, women's movement. We need to have policy centers and gender labs for the young leaders. Okay. Also, you have to take care about many topics which are there on hierarchical leadership, sexual harassment, online learnings, breaking the glass ceilings, higher education challenges. Now we have national education policy. What is the role of the nursing educators there? Endless. There is so much work to be there. There is an endless list. Okay, and the only thing what I can say is that leadership sets tone of culture. Okay, as it's the agenda based on the priority. So if you really want to broaden your horizons, start working on the nursing discipline. Nursing educators should start working on the curriculum. Nursing educators need to do a lot of research and have to create new topics. Please don't take the topics which are like, which are medically oriented topics. Take the topics which are socially relevant and clinically relevant. Definitely work on the NEP 2020. Try to articulate the whole thing for the nurses. And leadership, as I call, is a verb. You need to be always in action, no matter what. Hunt your goals. Nobody is going to come and give your goals in your pockets. These were my references, and I thank you all. Your power is your radical self, and you need to find it. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me.
Now our today's fourth speaker and the last speaker, Parul Kibliwala ma'am. What to say about ma'am? She's my guide. She's my mentor. Madam is every time suggesting me. Yeah, she's helping every time to me. Madam is a associate professor and visiting principal in Pal College of Nursing. She has completed her GNM, PBBC, MSc, PCTM, and DHA, and now she is pursuing in a PhD. Her work experience is as a staff nurse, sister tutor, lecturer, associate professor, and in charge principal in NDT University. Then for presentation, she's presented paper nationally and internationally. Chapter third, nursing care, elderly care, medical surgical nursing, and a nursing approach. A trained nurses association of India, volume 1, 2030. She's attended a state and national and international level workshop and the seminar.
Good morning to all the panelists. It was a very enjoyable experience for me to listen from Dr. Swaresh Khanna, from Lara, and from Dr. Swati Rane. I don't know what to do. That's what I'm feeling when I'm talking to all of you, with Swati talking as well as Lara speaking. I agree with Swati. Swati, there's lots to be done. I don't know, before I close my eyes, what can I do for the nurses? That's what I'm feeling at this moment. And I'm sure we will work out how best. My heart and soul for nurses. And I'm happy we have this topic of nurse advocacy. Dr. Swati Rane and Madam Alka Kazmi has taken up this opportunity to bring many 148 nurse participants to attend this type of a webinar. So let's start with talking about the update of the COVID-19 and the nursing systems. I think as Swati has very well said curriculum, but I would like to correct you, Swati, that as a community health nurse, there is already in the syllabus about sexuality, about abuse, about social challenges, safety, security. And I always talk to my students about all these things. And students are always overwhelmed by, oh, this is also there in our curriculum. So this was one thing which I wanted to share with you. There are a lot of things which I will talk as we go ahead. So let's see with the first session of the slide. First slide about Florence Nightingale 200 years ago. After the birth of Florence Nightingale, the world lives and is indicated by epidemiologists on the greatest health challenges in this century related to COVID-19. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. COVID has drawn attention to crucial importance. I'm not going to go into detail because there's lots more shared with Swati and with Dr. Swaresh about the critical conditions of the nurses during the during this pandemic in various hospitals, and we have seen it with our own eyes. And globally also, nursing profession is going through a tough time working in the hospitals. I see many nurses running away. They don't want to work with COVID because of this sad state of affair in these hospitals. Next. Now, across the globe, you have seen that there are profound changes we see in social interaction. Swati has already mentioned about communication, not only in clinical, but also in the education sector. We find that there is a lot of communication gap between service and education, and that we have to bring it together. Then only we can work as a team for the betterment of not only nurses, but also the students. We need a lot of communication to help students and teachers do a better job in the education sector. Next slide. Yeah. Now, COVID, if you say it's an abrupt interruption of previously planned here. Now, teachers, we usually do an academic calendar is prepared, this to do, that to do. Unfortunately, suddenly the COVID has come into it. And there's so much of confusion between for the students, for the teachers, for the colleges. Now, what to do next? And the online has come into existence. Now, with the online, what is happening is the students who are able to access to it are learning, but the students in the mountain areas, in the interior areas of the country are unable to access to the online study. So that's a confusion for the students. For the teacher, she has to prepare a lot of things on the computer. She may not be used to it, but she has to do it so that the students are able to access to the study. I was just thinking in my mind when I was thinking of online. We could have online procedures. Teachers can teach them online procedures. I remember in 1975, when my teacher taught me bed making, I would come home and do bed making. So that thought also can be inculcated for the students to practice at home, though they have no patience, but they have a long way to go with the society and with the community. Next. The crisis of COVID has brought a change in the world and our global outlook. So, also to teach us about how education needs to change with COVID. And that's where we are. On webinars, no conferences. We are at home, sitting at home, but we are with the society. We are with the students. We are with the teachers. And that is a change which is brought in all of us. So I feel COVID has brought some change in us. Mentally, it has brought a change. Physically, physiologically, in all aspects, I would say that COVID has brought about a change in our lifestyle also. Next. So there are many lessons which we have learned with COVID. Is educating in an interacting world. And what is this educating which is cited in an interconnected world? We can interconnect people in COVID internationally. We sitting at home, we are meeting people. Many a times when I'm on the webinar, my students from abroad will say, "Oh ma'am, I'm feeling so nice seeing you." So I have not met her physically, but at least through a webinar, I'm able to interconnect myself throughout the world. That's right. Yeah, this is what we mentioned about. But also today's generation, the oldest of whom are 25 years old, will, with many facing cancelled exams, sporting events, and even graduation. So there are technologies which are coming up of FOBA. There is a lot of fear, the feeling of missing out something. A student sitting in the class and chatting with her classmate, which is absent in a online class. Yesterday I was there with one for an exam, and I saw a child. He said, "Auntie, I have no friend." I said, "Why?" "Oh, I am only on the computer all the time." And what is happening with children? With computer, there are a lot of health problems coming up, which is again a major task for the health force to bring a change. Health force as well as the parents. Many a times we see that the parents are working and the children are not given attention. So this is where we feel that this is where we need to bring about change in our future generation in the country. Next slide. Yeah, when we talk about redefining the role of education, how are we redefining the role of the education system for COVID-19? Next slide. We'll continue with the redefining role. Students are able to gain access of knowledge, technical information through phones, tablets, computers, and redefining the role of the educator in the classroom and lecture theaters. So these are the changes which the teacher is, I am already discussed about it, and lot of resilience. We have to bring about change and adaptability with the crucial for the next generation entering work. All this time we say, oh no, don't use a mobile. But now the time has come that the mobile is become a necessity in our day-to-day life for improving our knowledge, for improving education, for understanding people. Next slide. Challenges for the faculty. Moving in person classes at home. From home, she is doing, but there is a problem for the faculty. How many students are taking part in an online class? She feels frustrated. She is not feeling the feeling of being with the students. And I feel with the online classes, because of the confusion, missing of classes, there's more of spiritual healing also needed for the students from the online courses. There are a lot of spiritual healing sites are available in the on the Facebook. A lot of things can be done and online. So this is one way, and alternative therapies can be added into the curriculum. So the students are able to learn what is meditation, how to energize the patient, how to energize themselves, how to energize their books. So this will help them improve their knowledge. Redefining how student performance. Now, performance of the students online is going to be very difficult for the nurse educator. So student performance, the grades are going to go low with only online courses. We need to provide books for the students to learn from the books, not only with books, but also more information can be provided to them. More sites can be given, websites can be taught to them so that they learn references as well as study various type of information. Next slide. Yes, engaging students through assignments. See, these days there's a lot of Moodle and lot of things have come up through the education system, and students can be given assignments. Marks can be given through assignments online, and the students know what it is happening. It's not a very new thing. These are all old, fashionable online courses which has been done by bachelor in education and masters in education. Already the teachers are doing it, but our nurses need to develop more type of sites to help students gain better information, better knowledge of nursing. Planning meaningful clinical learning experiences. Here I feel with my years of experience, many teachers are freshers who have no experience in the clinical area and working as teachers in the colleges. So here the teachers also need to be refreshed with new knowledge. The interest, motivation, inspiration for teachers is also one challenge for the nurse administrator in the colleges. Disparity issues that affect the ability to learn and be successful. All students are not same. There are a few who gain information much faster rather than the students who are slow learners. But these slow learners also can be brought up to be successful leaders. Next slide. So now the question arises, how nursing can or needs to reinvent itself in this context, and what is essential to preserve with regard to nurses training process. There's a lot of need where nurses are fresh entering into clinical areas. There are teachers who are fresh entering into the colleges who are not aware of many things. There is a lot of rigidity among teachers. Teachers do not want to explore and expand in the nursing training process. Next slide. Now, there are certain strategies which the nurse faculty need to deliberate in determining what content is to be taught, and undertaking that has challenged faculties for years. There's a need for the nurse principal to guide and support the teachers how they should follow in teaching the students. A paraphrase, the WHO states of the World Nursing, focus the nurse preparation should be on delivering primary health care, ensuring quality of care, safety, preventing and controlling infections, and combating antimicrobial resilience. So these are certain things which the WHO also is into, is where primary health care, primary education at the community level also plays a vital role for the student as well as for the faculty. Yes, next. So there is a reinforcement content about infectious diseases in the, though we have infectious disease. COVID came now. When AIDS came, everybody was running helter-skelter. And similar thing is happening also with COVID-19. So they have suggested, American Nursing Association, College of Nursing 2020, surveillance and detection, isolation, quarantine. I remember teaching quarantine, my students would ask me, what is quarantine? Now everybody is getting the clarity. Yes, COVID has brought us to learn what is quarantine. And I laughed to myself, yes, dear students, this is quarantine. So wherever you go, it is 7 days quarantine, 21 days quarantine, 14 days quarantine. So it has become easier for the students to understand quarantine and containment. Hand washing, cough, respiratory etiquette. This attitude, what Swati mentioned about attitude. Attitude and etiquette play a vital role for students, for the teachers. So teachers, if the teachers know what is attitude and what is etiquette, I'm sure they'll be able to pass over the information to the dear students. Next slide. Yes, when it comes to curricular need, you need to be explicit about the nurse's role in health promotion, health literacy, management of non-communicable diseases. This is all there in the curriculum. Our students, we are already teaching them about communicable and non-communicable diseases, and now the COVID has come into existence, and students will learn much more details about COVID-19, preparing nurses for critical role as managing epidemics. I feel now we need to have a master's in epidemiology. The WHO has already started masters in epidemiology, with some of the colleges around the world where they have started masters in epidemiology. And I think now India also, we need to start an epidemiological program in masters for nurses, because nurses are in the community and they need to know what is epidemiology. So emphasis on the population health should be strengthened by us. Next slide. The structure of the academic semester needs to be changed. We need to change now. I am from Maharashtra, it is from June to June. Gujarat, it is October to October, and I don't know the other part of the state. It may be the same, but this is where we need to bring about a change in the structure of the academic semesters. Indian Nursing Council says we make it as a yearly program and not a semester program. It is imperative that nurse faculty systematically research students' outcomes. Yes, this is a need for the teachers to do research on students' learning outcomes. That's how I always tell my teachers, learn, get to know about your students' outcomes. Then only you will be able to progress. So there is the importance, utmost importance is that research efforts by rigorous and ethically developed. So teachers also as well as clinical nurses need to ethically bring about changes in research for themselves and the students. Next slide. Yes, unlocking technology, delivering education. So when we are unlocking the technology, see, olden days we never learned technology. It was only the books and paper and pencil. But now the times have come, students want to read only through the mobile. Teacher has sent the PPT to the student only wants to learn from the mobile. And that is again a technology which has brought a change in the student's life. Next slide. COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in education systems in the institutions. Now, with the Indian Nursing Council coming up, every college must have an LCD camera, must have a CCTV camera in the classroom to see how the students are learning. So the principal can observe the students. Educators across the world are experiencing new possibilities. They are becoming more flexible, leading to potential benefits in accessibility to educate students across the world. So everywhere the changes of technology is taking place. Earlier it was just a floppy, then it came the CD, and now we have pen drives and we have expansion drives for learning of teaching students. So teachers collect all the information and this has been passed on to the students. Next slide. So teaching models adopted in COVID-19 is emergency remote teaching and robust online education. This is, all of us know that pandemic has become an emergency in teaching students online. And it is expanding from all areas. And I'm sure government must make changes to get internet system in the interior areas so students can be access to the learning experience. Next slide. So these are the modalities which we see when we see that without insertion into practical scenario and remote teaching, it's a temporary shift for instructional delivery. Now the government is still not willing to close down the lockdown. They want to continue another 1 more month. And that's a big loss to the teacher and the student. As Swati mentioned that when teachers are, even though they are teaching from home, the salaries are not given. So there's a lot of demotivation coming up from teachers also. And students are also getting demotivated. This is a crisis situation which we are passing through. And we really need to make a change in the teaching program. And systematic approaches will be needed for successful learning and permanent learning. So maybe college also can, as well as the at home online courses can be done. Next slide. Yes, I mentioned about robust. Now we have in EDX, Coursera, Udemy, a serious courses under the academic section where students can learn from these courses. Coursera is another very good site where research material is available and students can avail of these free courses from EDX and Coursera and Udemy. Next slide. Yes, efforts at the international level, agencies are asking government to evaluate the benefits of face-to-face classes versus emergency remote learning. Now we are doing the same thing in webinar. We can see each other. And that is how the learning can be done to prevent infection risk related to non-attendance, which is observed by all of us. Next slide. Corona courses in engineering students. Next slide. Corona courses for management students. Next slide. Corona courses for healthcare professionals. TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, has launched a course on Corona Warriors. It is also claiming that it has created inputs from Harvard University. The 6-hour course is also free of cost and professional specific. It is already online, and people who want to attend these courses can access to these links. Next slide. Yes, courses by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and WHO are including dead body management for COVID-19, facility set up to deal with COVID-19 outbreak, ambulance transfer of COVID-19 patients, introduction to ventilator use in a ICU, training health workers in a laboratory. Just today I was reading that Hyderabad has started a very small ventilator which can be used at home. It is like a mask, and it's a ventilator. Now, how far it is available and the cost, I have no idea about it. But these are certain things which we all can avail these facilities. Next slide. Teaching skills needed for the future. Next slide. Yes. So in this ever-changing global environment, young people require resilience and adaptability, skills that are proving to be essential. So resilience, flexibility, adaptability, emotional intelligence, very important. And Madam Swaresh Khanna did mention about his mental health. Mental health plays a very important role at this level where students are confused and how we need to counsel them. Continuous learning, entrepreneurship skills and creativity and critical thinking. This is where the teachers play a role for the students for critical thinking and creativity through online courses. Next slide. So looking into the future, some of the most important skills that employers will be looking for is creativity, communication, collaboration alongside empathy, emotional intelligence, and being able to work across the demographic lines of differences to harness the power of the collective through effective teamwork. Yes, I very strongly agree that teamwork is not there in our country. I feel there are so many things to do with teamwork, whether it is the teachers or whether it is the clinical area. Our teachers are not into teamwork. I remember very well my teacher who always would say, Parul, why are you working alone? Why don't you join the other teachers? At that time, I was not very confident. But today I feel, yes, what she said was right, that teamwork plays a very important role in bringing up the students, bringing up the teachers, bringing up the confidentiality as well as having confidence in self. So teamwork brings confidence. And teachers need to play a role for the students. What is happening these days with teamwork? There's only groupism. Groupism among students, groupism among the teachers, and no creative learning, no communication, no collaboration, nothing. So this is where empathy and emotional intelligence plays a vital role again for effective teamwork. Next slide. Yes. Now let's go to the question and answer session. I would like to add one more point over here. When we mentioned about future nursing, who mentioned about art of science, knowledge, attitude, skills, evidence-based. Yes, in India now we are into evidence-based practice, distance-based practice. Now it is a public health problem. Many of our students don't want to do community health nursing, but public health is a major part of the hospital and of the society. The more we work with the community, the humility, everything comes into ourselves. So I feel this was a very good platform for Madam Alka Tajne, for Mr. Parth Gondalia, for Dr. Swati Rane, for Lara and Dr. Swaresh Khanna. And I thank you very much for all the participants. I'm so happy to be with all of you. Thank you.
Here we come to the end of our progressive session. I, Ms. Monica Gangoda, on behalf of Vibrant Nursing College, would like to thank to all the speakers, participants, faculties of various colleges, and related to everyone this webinar. I take this opportunity to express my deep gratitude to Dr. Swaresh Khanna ma'am, where she has given an elaborative and informative session on scope of practice change during COVID-19 effect and impact of future care. We are really grateful to you, ma'am. The next covering topic on human rights, a key to COVID-19, was discussed by Mrs. Zara Jasani ma'am, which is so relevant and informative in today's scenario. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Swati Rane ma'am, who very beautifully enlightened us on unhealthy work environment and struggle for the frontliners. I also thank Dr. Parul Kibliwala ma'am, who is continuous updating us on COVID-19 learning in nursing education system and always supporting and guiding us in conducting such a webinars. I also extend my sincere gratitude to the moderator of our webinar, Mrs. Alka Tajne ma'am, Principal of Vibrant, who always provide opportunity to conduct such an event. I am also very grateful to trustees of our college, respected Dinesh Sir Gondalia, for allowing us to conduct this webinar. I also thank to our administrator, Mr. Parth Sir Gondalia, for his valuable support and guiding. Now, I thank to all participants who chose to be live with us and attending the webinar with a great enthusiasm and made it successful event. My sincere gratitude also goes to organizer of this webinar for choosing this topic that really matter in today's era. Thank you all. Hoping the same response from your side for the future webinar. Once again, I thank you all for being with us in this morning. Thank you.